Alright everyone, now we have to talk about the Desantis Astroturf. Now by that I don't mean that Ron DeSantis himself is trying to astroturf. He has pivoted to an explicitly gubernatorial bid. I wonder how many of the people that are explicitly trying to trigger a primary to weaken the Republican candidate, hint hint, it's likely to be Donald Trump in 2024. I wonder how many of these people are disingenuous and how many of them just didn't get the memo. Link in the description, archived of course. DeSantis is putting out gubernatorial ads right now. It doesn't seem that he's particularly interested in pivoting to a presidential role when he's got an automatic re-election and the ability to do even more in Florida. And he has a little bit of a miniaturized bully pulpit. You see, the other day, of course, he knows how to play up to the cameras and said, look, I'm going to make a major announcement tomorrow. All the cameras suddenly pivoted to Ron DeSantis because they were expecting him to try to preempt Trump by launching a presidential bid. I'm going to scare the shit out of the liberals. The left-wing media will melt down. I admire, by the way, the tact with which he handled this. He got all of the eyes upon him and then fired a Tampa-based prosecutor over the abortion issue because, of course, Florida curtailed abortion somewhat. And the prosecutor said, well, I don't give a shit if somebody has a late-term abortion. I'm not going to do anything about it. And DeSantis says, okay, then you're free to go, effectively. By the way, I approve of his decision. If people in Florida who are liberals really want to expand abortion rights or something, use jury nullification. I've been encouraging it for years for people that are aggrieved in states with unconstitutional gun laws. I've encouraged it for the drug war. You know, Manny was caught with 1.5 ounces of weed. Clearly it's intent to deal, so we've given him felony possession with intent to deal charges. Nullify the jury. Say, no, I don't believe it was really Manny's weed. I know that he admitted to it and had it in his pocket right outside the courtroom, but I don't know. Aliens might have planted it on him. Manny's a weird dude. You don't know what Manny is really up to in the end. Do that. Use jury nullification. But there is an astroturf involved with this. It doesn't, I think, come from DeSantis and people who directly support him. I think it's coming from liberals. The only thing that they want is a messy Republican primary as the lead up for 2024. They know there's likely to be a very messy Dem primary. Biden is unlikely to attempt to run in 24. In a non-incumbent slate, you have Kamala Harris. She's not well liked. She has that pseudo-incumbency. She does have a core fan base, but as you'll see, she was in 7th place in the last Dem primaries. She doesn't have much of an audience. You have Buttigieg. I think he does a little bit better. He's clearly attempted to push himself forward into the limelight. Apparently he has a feud with Kamala Harris, but he's only a transport secretary and former mayor for a couple of terms. He doesn't really have that much legit political experience, and while he's reasonably well-spoken, he is absolutely goddamn hated by the left wing of the Dem Party. That's a difficulty because that's all the young voters that are willing to knock on doors. Then you have Gavin Newsom. Gavin looks geared to potentially run. He's put out ads in Florida of all places. I don't think he'd be doing that if he wasn't at least speculating the possibility of running for the presidency. What's the problem? He completely fucked it up on COVID. And if he's running against DeSantis, by the way, he gets crushed by him. I think the one matchup in which Trump doesn't do as well as DeSantis would be if Newsom becomes the nominee. Because then COVID and the response thereupon becomes a real big platform for DeSantis and a really rotten board filled with fucking mealy worms for Gavin Newsom. I think that his raft would already be sinking outside of the gate. You have others. Tulsi Gabbard has been bandied around. I don't know that she has the ambition, etc., etc. And by the way, there will be a poll link in the description for who you expect to be the Dem nominee in 2024. I will also be linking that out, of course, in today's live stream. I'll do the news roundup. I've decided to basically just keep doing it every day because people seem to like it, and the more that I'm doing it, the more people are showing up, which means that it's great. It's good for the channel as far as the algorithms go, I think, too. The AstroTurf is that because it's likely to get so messy among the Democrats, they're worried that whoever their nominee is going to be embattled. If Trump decides to run, and no major person runs against him, so if you get a 2020 all over again, where you've got a couple of token never-Trumpers, Liz Cheney runs or something like that, and that's basically it, he coasts to the nomination, and they know that some states will suspend primaries anyway. They're just hoping to make it look like the Republican Party is as disunified as the Democratic Party. In my opinion, that's the entire goal. Because how do you go into the 24 election, especially if Biden runs, he's got legendary disapproval, he wrecked the economy, he doesn't really have any major nonpartisan accomplishments, he won't do well. But if he stands aside, you don't have any incumbent. Trump was a president. Nobody running in the Dem field has that advantage unless they decide that Jimmy Carter is allowed to run again. And ironically, I think I'd put him in the top half of potential candidates despite pushing 100 years old. Probably healthier than some of the Dem candidates. Joe Biden. It's going to get messy. The sharks will be circling around in the water trying to feast on Biden's political corpse in order to satiate themselves, gobble up what little core audience he had, and then go on to pole vault into the nomination slot. But the Republicans, if Trump runs and doesn't face any real competition, comes out unscathed. He doesn't have to debate anyone. He can immediately pivot to the general, and he's likely to do that. By the way, quick prediction. If Trump decides to run, and I don't know when he'll announce or even if he will run, he will effectively ignore any potential GOP field if possible. If he doesn't have anyone that's polling at least in the low double-digit range, he will effectively ignore them, refuse to even campaign against them. He'll make some speech and he'll say, look, I'm going to get the nomination. I'm not going to waste my time on you. The Dems can't unify the country. I was trying to do that. We've got more MAGA now than we had before. Let's just get to work. So I'm pivoting to the general. You people go ahead and debate, squabble amongst yourselves, go fuck yourselves. That would, by the way, be a wise decision. I have a feeling that would be Trump's MO to do such a thing, by the way. The Desantis Astroturf is that in the absence of any other Republican who, number one, has significant name recognition, and number two, hasn't already effectively pledged not to run if Trump does, he gets that incumbent slot, he gets half the primaries out of the way, he doesn't have to worry, he doesn't have to take any time off the general campaign trail. And the reason why they're so worried about Trump, I think, has more to do with the effect on free speech, almost, than anything else. Trump has been effectively banned off of every mainline platform. If he becomes the Republican nominee, are they capable of keeping him banned with a straight face? Some of them, I'm sure, will try to do so. Oh my God, we're worried about insurrections and stuff. The problem is that half the population will consider that to be a form of sedition. Hey, you're literally blocking out a main party candidate. He's broken no law. He's not, J6 isn't going to charge him or anything. He's not charged with a crime. You just don't like him. And so fuck you and your fucking platform. There will be lawsuits constantly. It'll be lawsuit palooza. And things will go crazy. And the billionaires don't want that. So what they're trying to do is set the stage, if not to deny Trump the nomination, at least to weaken him enough so that there's a segment of the Republican Party for the first time that really does genuinely dislike him for cock-blocking DeSantis. That's what it is. They're trying to get DeSantis many fans, especially on the COVID issue, to dislike Trump, to deny him that core of the public. My warning to Republicans that are actually listening to this shit and don't realize this is a liberal psyop, probably by David Brock and George Soros, is that the reverse is also true. Donald Trump has that technical incumbency, enormous amounts of in-party approval, and he has the capability of launching this campaign. Also, he deserves it, and this is agreed upon by the majority of the U.S. public. It's not just Republicans. There are plenty of independent voters who would love to see a matchup with Trump in it again. If, because of a liberal psyop, DeSantis ends up becoming the nominee after a bloody primary fight, there will be plenty of MAGA that do not support him. He suffers from the same problem if the psyop is successful. And that's the whole goal. They want the Democratic candidate to win. It doesn't matter who wins the Republican nomination if there's such a battle. They will attempt to deliberately insert their propaganda to get people into separate camps that are not capable of coalescing during the general, regardless of the outcome. I would say, go with the person with the technical incumbency, who was honk-honked, a time before, perhaps, and who has much more in-party support. DeSantis would be a fine president in the future, I think. The AstroTurf really doesn't have anything to do with his camp doing anything shady. It has to do with the Democrats. They just want an extended primary battle. But if you have a technical incumbent, there's no reason to have one. This is why ultimately if Biden drops, the heir apparent, if she chooses to run at all, is Kamala Harris. She will probably be nominated in the absence of Biden if she just chooses to put her name in the ring. Democratic states might suspend their primaries too. Again, even though hers is a pseudo-incumbency, she's not been president, just VP, there would be that argument to be made. The Democrats will have a bloody primary battle unless it's Biden, and I don't think that anyone really believes that Biden wants to run. And if he does, I don't think anyone really believes that he's capable of winning with his numbers the way that they are. They are about 10 points worse than in Trump's darkest hour at this point in the disapproval level, just so that we're aware. That's about all. Peace out.